What's up? This is Devin again with another CRP Minute, bringing you more preview of what we can expect going into UFC 238 this weekend. If you have not liked the Cage Rage podcast on YouTube or Facebook, please go and do so. Covering content on a daily basis, trying to keep you informed with the storylines and up to date on every twist and turn, every that you can imagine. Probably want to talk about in this video what is probably the most anticipated fight of the weekend, and it's not the main event, it's not the co-main event. It's a very highly anticipated, fans' wet dream of a fight between Donald Cowboy Cerrone and Tony El Cucuy Ferguson. And the first thing to note with this fight is you got two guys who are two of the absolute best to never win a belt inside the octagon. And I got to clarify real quick that technically Tony Ferguson has had UFC gold strapped around his waist before, but that was an interim belt. I'm talking this, and he's actually technically never fought for an undisputed championship. And when you look at Donald Cerrone is a guy who has the all-time wins record inside the UFC, the all-time finish record inside the UFC. And so you got two guys who have been around the block, been there for years. Ferguson's got a 14-1 UFC record, and neither one have ever held the undisputed title of their division. So they're two of the best in that. And the other thing to note here is that Donald Cerrone is really having a late career resurgence coming into this fight, and it's really been one of the main stories of the year, in my opinion. He comes in last year, goes on a 1-4 skid, and he even had a split with his longtime gym, Jackson Winklejohn, over there in New Mexico, and parts ways, ends up fighting Mike Perry, and that was kind of brought in to make a name off of him. And they were trying to use Cerrone as a springboard for some of these younger fighters, namely Mike Perry and then Alexander Hernandez. Well, Cerrone comes in and, he gets the famous, great image of him armbarring Mike Perry at the end of the first round, him gritting his teeth at the camera, and then he just completely takes Alexander Hernandez to school in their fight, and then comes back here recently with his biggest win in recent memory when he wins a 5-round decision, just completely outclassing and outworking and doing way more damage to Raging Al Quinn and moving him back up into the top 5 at lightweight when he had made a move to welterweight, wasn't really finding big success at either weight class anymore. A lot of people thought his best days were behind him, and here he is, probably one fight away from potentially having the best argument to fighting the winner of Khabib and Poirier later this year. And I would actually argue that the winner of this fight does have the best argument to fight the winner of that fight for the undisputed title. And I think this is a winnable fight. And when we look at Tony Ferguson, 11-fight win streak in the toughest division in the sport, a certified, just absolute gritty, non-stop Energizer Bunny of a fighter, very versatile, unorthodox, will take risks, pushes at such an extreme pace, definitely a fan favorite to watch. Good jiu-jitsu, good striking, just unpredictable, gritty. And he's been in there with guys like Rafael dos Anjos, and he beat Kevin Lee, and recently won a very just awesome win over Anthony Pettis. And so we got two great fighters in this, and just with their styles, this is bound to be fireworks. But when you look at this fight, you got two guys who are, they want their due. And you got Tony Ferguson, technically ranked now number 2 in this division, as the number 2 contender behind the champion Khabib Nurmagomedov and the number 1 contender Dustin Poirier, despite having 11 wins in a row in this division. I mean, if he doesn't get a undisputed title fight if he wins this fight this weekend. It's highway robbery. And with Donald Cerrone, he comes in ranked number 4, right behind Conor McGregor, and he's really making a historic run at this point in his career. So this is the fight to look forward to this weekend. It's really a cherry on top to an already great card. I am very excited to see these two fight. I think it could go either way. I think both of these guys are Hall of Famers, and I think that the fans are ultimately the big winner in this fight. Stay tuned to the CRP UFC 238 this Saturday on pay-per-view in Chicago, Illinois, on the ESPN Plus app. Tune in. Hope we're getting you prepared the way you expect, and there will be more to come.